Albedo is easily one of the most intriguing and complex characters in the Overlord series, which isn't surprising considering that she was created by Tabula Smaragdina, one of the 41 supreme beings that was considered to be arguably the most meticulous and creative when it came to using the NPC creation feature of the game YGGDRASIL. However, there are still a lot of information that we don't know about Albedo, so in this video, to better understand her character, I'll be going over things like her backstory and creation, her overall strength and role in the Great Tomb of Nazarick, along with the general build she possesses and other details as well. As usual, there will be spoilers for Albedo's character and the story for Overlord, so here's a spoiler warning just in case. Now then, in order to understand Albedo's character, we have to first look at the creator Tabula because his passions and interests were the foundation for which influenced much of Albedo's design and personality. So to explain, who was Tabula Smaragdina? Well, he was the original 9 founders for the guild Eins Ugaun, later referred to as one of the 41 supreme beings by the NPCs, and before the Great Tomb of Nazarick arrived in the New World. He was often regarded by other guild members as a meticulous setting maniac who enjoyed writing extremely immersive and detailed lore for all his creations, with Albedo's character sheet being one of the few we get to read in the light novel. He was an alchemist both in the game YGGDRASIL and in spirit, having an interest in ancient mystical lore and the occult. Even his username Tabula Smaragdina was a reference to the Emerald Tablet, a legendary artifact believed to hold the secrets to the Philosopher's Stone. So it wasn't surprising that his passion for alchemy along with interest in horror and the idea of Gatmorway would permeate through his work, especially when it came to Albedo and the sisters. For instance, Albedo's name was literally based on the magnum opus, the alchemic process to create the Philosopher's Stone, being the stage which represented whitening or purification, so Tabula obviously designed her to be a representation of those very aspects, and her outward demeanor is often depicted to be that of elegance and grace, from her majestic looking outfits to being described as someone who possesses an impeccable beauty. However, this was simply on the surface because don't forget that Tabula was fascinated with the concept of Gatmorway, a term used to describe someone acting in a way that is completely contradictory to their usual self. In Albedo's case, even though Tabula had designed her as a figure of pristine beauty, dignity and purity on the surface, but underneath this exterior facade, she's a ruthless, sadistic and twisted individual. And we can find even more examples of this contrasting character design in Albedo's highly detailed settings, like being defined as the perfect housewife and someone who enjoys cleanliness, but then when it came to herself behind the scenes, she was extremely messy and would even hoard items such as a collection of Momoga plushies. Additionally, Tabula designed Albedo to be highly promiscuous, which is again a reflection of his fascination with contrasting character traits, while also being a playful nod to the succubus archetype that she was obviously based on. More about her racial attributes later in the video. But as we all know, Momoga was able to rewrite this salty aspect about Albedo prior to the shutdown of YGGDRASIL, and despite being a small change, I personally think this has fundamentally reshaped her character after she gained sentience in the New World, and it definitely makes for some hilarious interactions, such as the time when Albedo almost tried to rape Eins. That said, having understood the background, aspects about her role and responsibilities within Nazarick can be inferred from her character settings as well. To quote, Albedo is a demoness who holds the title of Guardian Overseer, the highest ranking position in the Great Underground Tomb of Nazarick, meaning her authority is second only to Momoga, who later became known as Eins Ugaun, placing her above the other floor guardians. As for what she does as Guardian Overseer, she is responsible for coordinating the activities and monitoring the performance of all the NPCs within Nazarick, ensuring they adhere to the commands and objectives set by Eins. She also handles all the internal and external operations of Nazarick, like maintaining the tomb's defenses, managing their resources and budget, working to formulate expansion plans with the other NPCs in the New World, along with handling the intelligence network of Nazarick and information acquired by the spies. But aside from being the Guardian Overseer, Albedo was also a floor guardian, and her assigned domain was the 10th floor of Nazarick, which not only serves as the final defensive line against intruders, it's also the command center for Nazarick because the Throne Hall is the location where the world-class item known as the Throne of Kings can be found, considered to be the seat of power for Eins Ugaun. And to explain its function, whenever someone sits on the throne, they are presented with a status screen that shows all the information of the people who serve Eins, along with a live feed of Nazarick, so it's not surprising that Albedo was assigned to be the guardian of this floor given her talents for administrative work, and she can fully utilize this particular feature to improve their operational efficiency. Adding to this, inside the throne hall, one can find Albedo's weapon, the world-class item Ginungagap here as well, which was secretly given to her by Tabula prior to the shutdown of Yggdrasil, but after Ainz discovered this, he prohibited Albedo from taking the weapon into battle. There were also other notable locations on the 10th floor, such as the rooms belonging to the Pleiades, the Lemagatan named after the Lesser King of Solomon, and it's a dome hall that stands just before the throne hall, which is guarded by 72 golems, and Ashir Banipal, a grand library filled with a wealth of information all collected by the 41 supreme beings. Now moving on, Albedo's job scope would eventually expand beyond her usual role as a Guardian Overseer after Ainz founded the Sorcerer Kingdom in the New World, serving as a representative of the Sorcerer King on the world stage. And this is quite a fitting assignment because Tabula did compare Albedo to Empress Wu Zetian in her character settings. They both share the same traits of being effective administrators and having great intelligence to lead their forces. However, Albedo's character settings do also clarify that she isn't omnicompetent. In fact, in a competition of peer wits, Demiurge is considered to be superior, whereas for combat proficiency, Shalltear is the better fighter as compared to her, which is such a good way to showcase the diversity of talents that can be found inside Nazarick. Having explained her origins, let's go over Albedo's general build like her racial and job class levels to see how they influence her character. But just before that, I wanted to mention that in the game Yggdrasil, when it came to the concept of race, player characters along with NPCs were given 3 choices during the creation phase, which will affect how certain characters will play. For starters, we have the humanoid species, which cover races like humans, elves, dwarves, or others that share similar physical traits. They're the most popular choice in the game, but they were the weakest when it came to basic stats, and their racial levels were low, although this provided more allocation space for job classes. Then we have the demi-human species, which included races like goblins, ogres, lizardmen, and so on. Basically those that look more animalistic. They had better base stats than the humanoid races, and had the option to customize their racial levels, but their intelligence along with job classes were more limited. The third choice was the heteromorphic species, considered to have the most powerful base stats among the 3, and they were able to level up or evolve from a specific racial line into a more powerful variant, but besides that, they were able to gain more ability points while having access to job classes as well. However, in spite of the variety for customization, the heteromorphic species was still the least popular choice because heteromorphic players were classified as monsters by the game, so it meant that other players can freely kill or hunt them down without suffering from penalties, which only made the experience harder for heteromorphic players. Also, even though the races that fall under this group normally consisted of undead, vampires, demons, and other evil aligned races, there were good aligned ones as well, such as angels, fairies, or elementals. With that in mind, Albedo is a level 100 NPC who has a total of 30 levels put into a race, while the remaining 70 were allocated to job classes. So starting with her racial levels, she falls under the umbrella of the heteromorphic species, and to be more specific, she's part of the demon race. And because she's a heteromorph, Albedo does benefit from the unique features that distinguish her from other humanoid characters, like having innate immunities or resistances to most negative effects, possessing passive regeneration abilities, and be able to undergo special transformation to unlock new abilities or forms. Now, for her actual racial levels, we only know that she possesses 10 levels which were assigned to the imp race, while the remaining 20 is still currently unknown, but it was speculated that she had points in Succubus and Nelfishni as well. More about them shortly. So to first explain the imp race, it's likely a low-level racial class that serves as a starting point for many demon-like heteromorphic races in Yggdrasil to help them unlock more powerful demonic racial classes, and it could be one of the inspirations for some of Albedo's demonic attributes. For example, imps are normally small, winged, mischievous creatures that can shapeshift, but the only similarities I can see in Albedo are her black angelic wings and horn features, because she is definitely not small by any means. But apart from physical appearances, it seems that in traditional fantasy media, imps were often seen helping their masters to corrupt mortals, and given how Albedo has done something similar in the series, by taking over the criminal organization 8 Fingers and turning Princess Renna into an imp, they could likely be a reference to this aspect about the race itself. Regardless, while it's not explicitly confirmed in the source material, Albedo's design and behavior do strongly suggest that she could be some type of succubus as well, although she does lack a few of the usual traits associated with the race itself, like being able to drain the life force or energy from targets, and charm or dominate the minds of people. Granted, Albedo does possess the stunning beauty and lustful desires of a succubus, along with being highly intelligent, cunning, observant, and persuasive, but the most obvious clue was how Albedo easily learned the language of the New World, because succubi were apparently polyglots, allowing them to speak and understand all languages through supernatural means. That said, Nalfashini is another speculated race for Albedo, and there were some similarities with the creature that we can draw from in relation to a character. For instance, according to D&D lore, Nalfashinis were high-ranking demons that were extremely intelligent, having control over numerous lesser demons, and often serve as judges for the souls of the damned, but they will also assess the soul of someone to determine if they are worthy of becoming a demon, which could be another reference to the Princess Rana situation. Additionally, Nalfashinis are also known for being prideful, quick to temper creatures, and they have incredible physical strength as well, but even though they consider combat as something beneath them, they are still demons with near insatiable bloodlust, which are traits that Albedo has shown in the series. And hopefully this isn't the case, but many fans have even speculated that true form might be derived from the Nalfashini itself, because Shalltear once said that Albedo did look like a gorilla. In any case, going over Albedo's job classes, like I mentioned just now, she has 70 levels assigned, and even though they are not fully detailed in the source material, enough information is still available to outline her possible roles and how they affect her overall build. Now starting with the ones that are known, she has 10 levels in both Guardian and Unholy Knight, along with 5 levels in Blackguard and Shield Lord, while the remaining 40 were unknown. To first explain the Guardian class, as the name implies, is likely designed for characters that prioritize guarding not only themselves but also allies from harm, so it wouldn't be surprising that this job class gave her some form of physical or magical boost to her defenses, increasing her ability to absorb damage. This specific class might even provide abilities that can be used to immobilize or disable enemies. As for the Unholy Knight class, according to D&D lore, they were apparently noble knights who were corrupted by power, going against all that is holy and pure, which allows them to use magic that are considered to be evil in nature. And this was likely added to not just further improve Albedo's defensive capabilities, but to offer a kid some offensive capabilities as well. But to continue, the Blackguard was described to be the evil counterpart of the traditional paladin class found in D&D, and they are said to possess a distinct evil aura that can bestow blessings upon those aligned with evil, while instilling fear in those who are aligned with good. And like the previous two, it continues with the theme of Albedo having more defensive job classes. Although being an evil-oriented class, the Blackguard was likely added to complement her synergy with most of the undead and demonic inhabitants of Nazarick. Then for the Shield Lord class, the name is a big giveaway of what it provides to Albedo, likely enhances ability to use shields effectively, increase the block rate to better absorb or deflect damages, and reduces the stamina cost of using shields. Lastly, for the remaining 40 job class levels, it will not explicitly detailed in the light novel, but similar to the others I covered, it's possible there are classes that focus on improving her defensive abilities, or maybe even ones that enhance administrative and leadership skills as well. Either way, it's easy to conclude what her combat roles would normally be in an MMORPG setting, especially when we look at the overall character stats. There's a greater emphasis on HP, resistance, physical and magical defenses, because for this reason she was regarded as the NPC with the highest defensive power in Nazarick, and she often serves as the tanker. Her build even includes several special abilities that can further enhance her defensive capabilities. The first one is the most iconic ability, which allows her to transfer any damages, even super tier magic, to a personal armor, Hermes Trismegistus. More about the armor later. Then we have Aegis and Walls of Jericho, which don't actually have any specific explanation, but they were speculated to provide improvements to her physical and magical defenses. She also has skills known as Missile Parry and Counter Arrow. The former allows her to negate ranged attacks, while the latter allows her to reflect set ranged attacks. Furthermore, she has access to some utility abilities as well, like the skill Transposition, which allows Albedo to instantly switch places with her allies, having the ability to fly with her wings, and summoning a bicep mount, although she can no longer use the creature because of her purity, a subsequent result of Iron changing her static character setting. With that said, going back to Albedo's personal armor, Hermes Trismegistus is probably the most significant part of her overall build, as it was specifically crafted for her by Tabula. So to explain, it's a divine class item that reflects Tabula's meticulous attention to detail and his thematic interest in alchemy and protection. The armor is literally named after Hermes Trismegistus, who was considered to be the father of alchemy and the author of the Emerald Tablet. But what made the armor special is how it works in conjunction with Albedo's ability to redirect damage, since it was designed to withstand immense amounts of damage. Whenever she is hit with powerful or lethal attacks, she can simply have the armor take the hit instead. And because the armor was made with 3 distinct layers, an inner skin-tight liquid bodysuit that boosts Albedo's physical abilities, a middle full-body mail undershirt that enhances the defensive stats, and a final outer heavy plate that reinforces the inner layers, she can essentially take 3 fatal hits. and the order in which they get destroyed are outer, middle, and then finally the inner layer. Unfortunately, apart from defensive purposes, the armor doesn't appear to offer Albedo anything else in regards to offensive capabilities or flashy enhancements, making it fairly weak despite being classified as a divine class armor. Another notable piece of equipment belonging to Albedo is a weapon, the world-class item Ginongagap, which was secretly gifted to her by Tabula and according to Norse mythology, was the name for the primordial void that existed before the creation of the cosmos, representing the destructive potential of emptiness and chaos. As for what it can do, Ginongagap can be used to destroy large areas, especially physical objects, but it's not very useful against individual targets. Also, the weapon is capable of taking on different forms to better suit Albedo's combat style, although the exact nature of its transformed state remains unknown. However, Albedo is apparently forbidden to take Ginongagap into battle because Iron's fear a powerful enemy might steal the weapon. Nonetheless, Albedo has some other miscellaneous equipment as well, like 3F, a main weapon of choice, and is a bardish with the effect of size alteration. And later, after arriving in the New World, Albedo along with the other Floor Guardians were given a ring of Iron's Gown, which allows them to freely teleport throughout Nazarick, but they were forbidden from wearing the rings during missions outside of the tomb. Anyways, now that we learned everything about Albedo's character, how powerful is she? Well, it's difficult to say because Albedo is built for defensive purposes and she is regarded as the most resilient character with extremely high defensive stats. However, despite being highly effective in control situations such as drawn-out battles where her durability and support skills can shine, Albedo often lacks the raw damage output needed to win against some of the other NPCs in Nazarick. For example, Ocultus and Shalltear were far superior when it came to a physical battle, while Demiurge and Marek can offer greater magical diversity and higher burst damage than Albedo. Also, not to mention Albedo's reliance on her damage redirection ability, and her specialized armor will become an issue because if the armor is compromised, her effectiveness as a tank will be greatly reduced. Ultimately, even though Albedo's specialized build doesn't exactly make her the most powerful in terms of combat capabilities, she's still easily among the top 5 strongest NPCs in Nazarick. Of course, there are other metrics to measure strength as well, like her incredible administrative abilities, intelligence, and leadership skills that she uses to ensure all the operations of Nazarick remain functional. That's why, despite not being the most powerful, she's still one of the most important members in the Nazarick hierarchy. But yeah, that's my comprehensive breakdown on Albedo's character, and hopefully I managed to cover everything about her origins, abilities, overall build, racial and job class levels, along with her equipment. If I missed anything, feel free to let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss any of my future breakdowns. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in my next video.